Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. So the most important news and editorial of the day, that is relevant for both prelims and mains examination perspective, will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with news topic list. Today is 11th of July. The first news is Twitter petition on section 69A of the IT Act. This is from the text and context page of the Hindu and something very important both for the prelims and mains examination. The second news, that is shown area of paddy has risen marginally. We'll see the detail about this as well. Third, army needs new utility helicopters to boost and augment the performance of army. Fourth, BRICS media group look to boost the synergy. This is again something important for the post-pandemic world. And the last is an editorial transition and the uncertainty. Right. So this is from the Indian Express. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. So starting with the first news of the day from the text and context page of the Hindu, that is Twitter petitions on the section 69A of the IT Act. We'll see and understand the news in detail so that you are able to handle the question both from the prelims and mains examination. So this particular news is important for General Studies paper 2 under the topic important aspects of governance, transparency, accountability and e-governance. So recently, Twitter has moved to Karnataka High Court seeking to set aside the multiple blocking order by the central government under the section 69A of the Information Act. This section is although in the news previously also UPSC ने इस पे questions भी पूछे हुए हैं, but ये दोबारा से news में है, so this become relevant so that you understand the important facts about this section, right? So what Twitter has said, they have moved the Karnataka High Court to block the order that is given by the central government under the 69A, section 69A of the IT Act, and kind of the speech that have been brought to be the censored. So the central government has asked Twitter to censor some of the account and some of the tweet which was done, right? What is section 69A of the IT Act? Basically, it empowered the government to restrict access to any content in interest of the sovereignty and integrity of the country. It's a long debated issue that this has been misused by the central government. Again, this is something that the call has to taken by the Supreme Court and even by the Honorable Court, even for the High Court. We'll not get into that aspect. पहले आप ये news को समझे, then we'll see what are the possibilities that is coming. Now, Twitter hold that the government has alleged not shown why the restriction were necessary in the interest of public order or any other reason. So Twitter has asked the government that the central government, actually they have in the petition they have said High Court, Karnataka High Court, कि central government ने किसी तरह से कोई ऐसी बातें नहीं कही हैं या कोई ऐसे valid reasons नहीं दिए हैं जो इस particular tweets ने इंडिया की sovereignty या फिर integrity को harm पहुंचा दी. So this is all the premise of the entire story. Now let's understand what is the background. See, the US headquartered tech company, that is the Twitter, has been speaking to the Ministry of Electronics and Technology since May about the reconsideration of the some of the blocking orders which was issued by the ministry. However, in June, ministry gave the last opportunity to comply with the order, setting out serious consequences for the non-compliances, right? तो इस वजह से भी बहुत सारी बातें dispute जो है, it's not taken recently, it has started way back in March only. Basically in May आप बोल सकते हैं ये सारी चीजें start हुई. Now, responding to the development, the Ministry of State for the Information Technology has stated that all foreign intermediaries have the right to judicial review and they also have the unambiguous obligations to basically comply with the Indian law. This is true. All the companies that are operating in India, the US based company like Facebook, even WhatsApp, खास करके अगर बात करें आप all the telegrams, Twitter, so these are the company which has to comply the rules and norms of the country where they are actually operating. तो इंडिया में अगर ऑपरेट कर रहे हैं तो इंडियन रूल्स के अकॉर्डिंगली करने होंगे. बट ट्विटर्स ने ये बात रखा है हाई कोर्ट के सामने that the government has not given the legitimate reason that why we can block the content or the tweet, right? Now, legality behind blocking a content, how it is goes basically in India precisely, Section 69A of the IT Act empower the government to restrict access to any kind of content in interest of the sovereignty and integrity of our country, right? सिक्योरिटी रीजन से या फिर स्टेट और फ्रेंडली रिलेशंस का किसी तरह से इम्पैक्ट हो रही है, पब्लिक ऑर्डर डिस्टॉर्ट हो रही है, then section 69A of IT Act can be imposed and that particular content can be censored. Now, all directions to restrict information or content in circulation must be recorded in writing. जो भी directions दिए जाएंगे वो writing में होने चाहिए. Now, the social media intermediaries failing to comply with the regulation are liable to have a monetarily penalized. उनको monetarily penalize करने की provisions हैं, along with the imprisonment term which may be extended up to 7 years. So this is a factual point that you can take a note of. Now, the procedures for executing the provisions of the Act are enlisted in the information technology, जिसको procedure और safeguard blocking of access information by public rule 2009 के अंदर ये सारी चीजें भी की जाती हैं. Now, Internet Advocacy Group ने ये बात कही है that they have been particularly critical about the Rule 16 that suggests that strict confidentiality has to be maintained on the request and the action there have been taken attributed to the cause of lack of transparency, right? So companies, even like Twitter, they said that जिस तरह की government ने rules बनाई है, which is ambiguous in nature and it's not promoting transparency, blocking as a content is not that big deal. But the right to freedom of speech and expression is another point of view, which even was, several occasions Supreme Court has held that. ट्विटर ने कहा है कि गवर्नमेंट ने कोई वैलिड रीजंस नहीं दिए, द रीजन बीइंग व्हाई इट कैन ब्लॉक अ कंटेंट और अ ट्वीट. So the mentioned legislation cannot read under the purview of Article 19 of the Indian Constitution, which call for the freedom of speech and expression. But यहाँ पे एक check and balances भी रखी गई है हमारे Constitution में. Under clause 2 of this particular article, it says that state can impose a reasonable restrictions for the same if it is being found. अगर ज़रूरत पड़ी तो reasonable restriction लगा सकती है, वो इम्पार करती है Section 69A के अंदर. Right? So this is how it goes about. These were the main point that you have to take a note. Some other important finding, Twitter की क्या claim है इस चीज को लेकर के, जो माइक्रो ब्लॉगिंग प्लेटफॉर्म है Twitter, it states that it respects the user expression while also taking into the consideration for the applicable law that their country, basically जिस country में operate कर रहे हैं उस countries के local law को भी उनको applicability के साथ आगे बढ़ने की जरूरत है, right? So in Indian context, the government has already given them notice, but despite the compliances and other stuff, the government has come up with the strong action, and in reason of that, and in consequences of which, the Twitter has moved to the Madras. Now, there is disparity in assessment what constitute the free expressions to harm public order, and two entities have the premise of the entire constitution. The Twitter ने बताया that they restrict access to an alleged violation content only based on the valid and properly scoped request from an authorized entity. अगर कोई ऐसी बातें हैं, अगर किसी ऐसे ट्वीट से जहाँ इंटीग्रिटी या सोवरेनिटी को इम्पैक्ट होती है और उसकी कंप्लेन अगर कोई इन्फोर्समेंट एजेंसीज करती है, ऑथोराइज एंटिटी करती है, तब वो उस कंटेंट को ब्लॉक कर सकते हैं. Now, if the policy stipulate that the author of the content must be informed about the action that is being taken against him if such a request is received or acted upon. तो अगर आप इस तरह के कोई actions ले रहे हैं किसी individual के प्रति, you have to give a prior information to him that you are blocking a content. Now, दो कुछ structural problem Twitter ने highlight किए हैं, they have highlighted in the petition. First is the absence of the case-specific rationale for blocking the content and account. And secondly, they said that not according to the originator of the content of the mandatory hearing. So these people would also be entitled to hear and listen about the grievances also. Now, some finding of the transparency report. As per the transparency report from January to June 2021, it says that India accounted for 11% of overall legal requests received globally by the micro-blogging platform, that is Twitter, for moderating access to certain content, right? So this is what the report had actually quoted. And moreover, during the period, internationally, it received almost 43,000 387 legal demand to remove the content specifically, and 1,96,878 account for the greater observed spike since it started writing the Transparency International report in 2012. So this is about the report of the transparency. Now, procedural issues as per the Twitter की अगर बात करें किस तरह से ये काम करती है, how does it go about blocking the content, and what are the other Supreme Court guidelines in this? So, Twitter holds that the government has been merely reproducing the words of Section 69(8) for a reason for blocking the URL and account. Right? This is what they have actually submitted a plea that was filed, and the government has alleged that not shown why the restriction were necessary in the interest of public order without any reason. Also, इसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट की एक रूलिंग है वेयर द सुप्रिटेंडेंट सेंट्रल प्रिजन ऑफ द फतेहगढ़ वर्सेस राम मनोहर लोहिया हैज हेल्ड दैट द restriction made in the public interest litigation must pose a reasonable connections with the objective behind to be achieved. Even you can quote in mains paper. Now, one of the other reason why Supreme Court has upheld the constitutionality of 69A in the Shreyas Singhal versus Union of India in 2012 was that it adherence to accord hearing of the author as content was content as well as the intermediary. So ये कुछ दो important रूल्स हैं, खास करके सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट्स हैं, ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं, फाइंडिंग्स हैं जो आप एग्जामिनेशन में भी यूज कर पाएंगे. Now moving to the other news, shown area of paddy risen marginally, something important for general studies paper 3 under the topic issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies, minimum support price and public distribution system. So according to the data that was collected by the crop division of the Union Agriculture Ministry, it shows that the paddy reason has marginally increased compared to the previous week, but it was 23.95% less than compared to the last year. जो पिछले साल में जितनी शोन की गई थी उससे भी अभी कम है 23.95%, but again it has marginally increased. Now difference in the areas coverage. So the difference in area coverage from 2021 figure is 22.75 lakh hectare, and showing of pulses and black gram and yellow split pigeon peas has decreased. These are some of the factual points that you have to take a note of. Now, while the cultivation of the green gram, that is moong dal, has increased by 37.47% and other pulses by 135.12%. Now, the ministry has also maintained that too early to suggest डिक्रीज कितनी हुई है इसके परसेंटेज में किस दूर है और कैलकुलेशंस की जरूरत पड़ेगी. दे नीड सम टाइम टू गेट द एग्जैक्ट आइडिया. दिस इज द ऑनगोइंग खरीफ सीजन, दे विल स्टिपुलेट व्हाट इज द एग्जैक्ट फाइंडिंग. नाउ स्टेट परफॉर्मेंसेस की अगर बात करें, छत्तीसगढ़ shown a decrease of about 6.1 lakh hectare, while in Punjab it is down by 4.8 lakh hectare. In Madhya Pradesh there has been decrease by 4.6 lakh hectares. Now in Madhya Pradesh for other decreases, that is by 22.4 hectare in all kharif crops. Rajasthan की अगर बात करें, Rajasthan has increased cultivation by about 25 lakh hectares till July 8. Now oilseed cultivation, how it has been impacted. So the total oilseed 2 decrease in the cultivation more than 20%, and groundnut or soybean cultivations की अगर बात करें, this is down by 18% and 21% consecutively. Right? अब approximate 22 भी लिख सकते हैं और इसको 19% भी कर सकते हैं. Now farmer seems to prefer that the shown of sunflower in this kharif season, and the cultivation has increased by 43%, though the extra of just is about 1.16 lakh hectare. And coarse grain bajra, that has again increased by almost close to 80%. While the cultivation of jowar, ragi, maize, small millets have significantly reduced compared to the last year cultivation. So although this is a balanced kind of thing, but again गवर्नमेंट ने जहाँ फाइंडिंग की है कि जहाँ पे कम कल्टिवेशन है उसको एग्जैक्टली रिपोर्ट की गई है, एंड टू सम लेवल अ माइन्यूट इंक्रीज हैज आल्सो बीन सीन. नाउ सेंटर की क्या डायरेक्शंस दी गई है स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को. द सेंटर हैज बीन आस्किंग द स्टेट टू encourage farms in the cultivation of paddy, citing the demand that is rising globally. And it has been pushing for the nutritional security by asking farmer for the coarse grains. Now, increasing the price of the edible oil during the import dependence has also toughened the moment for the center recently. Moving to the other news, that is Army needs new utility helicopters, something important for General Studies Paper 2, achievement of India in science and technology, Indianization of technology, and development of new technology. So the Army Aviation Corps is in the process of major augmentation of its firepower, which call for an induction of indigenous light combat helicopter, जिसको LCH भी कहते हैं. In the way, the Apache attack helicopter would be joining the entire forces by 2024. So in its fleet aging Cheta and Chetak helicopters, this is old helicopters that still being used. ये हाई एल्टीट्यूड के लिए कुछ रिप्लेसमेंट की ज़रूरत है जहाँ पे एडवांस लेवल के इंडिजिनस लाइट कॉम्बैक्ट हेलीकॉप्टर से रिप्लेस की जा सकती है इन दोनों हेलीकॉप्टर्स को. Now, of the 190 of them, 134 is over, and 70% of them are 30-year-old. So definitely, state-of-art light compact helicopter is essentially required for our forces. Now, the army operates with 144 indigenous advanced light helicopters. Now, अगर बात करें LUH design developed की, this is by the Hindustan Aeronautical Limited that has come up, and it will take time for the sufficient number to come in. Definitely, this is something which is not going to be done over the years. It will take its time, and possibly by a good number of years, I can say possibly by 2025, this would be inducted. Now, the Air Force is also scheduled to raise the first LCH squadron shortly. Now, Russian utility helicopters की अगर बात करें, there's a deal with Russia for 200 KA-226 utility helicopter that has been stuck for several years, and India is looking for the Indianization of these helicopters so that it can be possibly used for the army, navy, basically air force में और army में इसको utilize की जा सके, right? And post Ukraine war, Russia's ने अभी इस particular जो deal है उसको भी halt कर दिया है. The army and the air force together have the requirement over the 400 helicopter in its class. Now, there are basically three main variety of helicopters that is being used in the paramilitary forces or the armed forces. First is the attack helicopters, other is the utility helicopters, and other is the transport helicopters, right? So India is looking forward with more utility helicopters. Now, LCH squadrons की अगर बात करें जो light compact helicopters हैं, in June 1, 2020, the Army has raised its first light compact helicopter squadron in Bengaluru, and it will move to an Eastern Command on completion for the next year. The Cabinet Committee has sanctioned the procurement of around 39 AH-64 Apache attack helicopters from US following the IAF procedures for 22 Apaches that were designed. And basically the deal was signed in September 2015 itself. It has been delayed for a long time. Now the government has decided to further patch the procedures that would go for the army as well. Now army की अगर UAV की बात करें, unmanned aerial vehicles, the army aviation got a control of the UAV which were earlier under the artillery, and the army has over 300 Herons UAV procedures for Israel. From Israel they have upgraded it and planned for the weaponization and facility of the satellite communication at an estimated cost of 6,000 crore rupees that has been again delayed. So these all sort of things need to be streamlined, and at the earliest they would be required by our forces. Now, the other news, BRICS Media Group look into the boosting energy, and basically by synergy I mean they are looking forward to have a coordinations at how the post-pandemic world can be evolved. So the title is BRICS Media Group look to boost synergy. Important for General Studies paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India's and affecting India's interest. So recently, a prominent media group from the BRICS that include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa countries have forecasted their commitment to stepping up a dialogue and finding the way that how there can be a strong synergy as they can confront with the new common challenges post-COVID और कोविड-19 के बाद जो इम्पैक्ट हुए हैं उससे कैसे रिकवर करना है, रशिया की इन्वेजन्स के बाद, यूक्रेन के बाद जो एक ग्लोबल ऑर्डर में डिस्टॉर्शंस आई हैं खास करके सप्लाई चेन, क्रूड ऑयल, इससे कैसे बचा जा सकता है, व्हाट आर द वे फॉरवर्ड. सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द थिंग दैट वर डिस्कस्ड. नाउ एक्शन प्लान की अगर बात करें, द एक्शन प्लान रिलीज्ड द 5th ब्रिक्स मीडिया फोरम कमिटेड टू सपोर्ट द फैसिलिटेटिंग BRICS media organization through a range of initiative which includes the joint training of journalists to explore the applications of new technology such as smart content productions, smart broadcasting, satellite news and AI anchoring. Now BRICS Media Forum की अगर बात करें, this was actually started way back in 2015 by the media organization from 5 countries इंडिया की तरफ से द हिंदू, ब्राज़ील की तरफ से CMA ग्रुप, रशिया की तरफ से स्पुतनिक, चाइना की तरफ से जिन्हुआ and South Africa की तरफ से independent media. So this is again very important for prelims examination. A question can be directly framed. Now, since the launch of the BRICS Media Forum in 2015, the grouping has held 4 and 5 plus podium meetings. Although they have been continuing with the meeting, but post-COVID जो रिकवरी है और जिसमें जो चेंजेस की गई है द स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट टेक्नोलॉजी दैट हैज आल्सो बीन टू द पार्ट ऑफ मीडिया फोरम फॉर द ब्रिक्स. Now moving to the editorial of the day, the title is Transition and Uncertainty. This is something important for General Studies paper 2 under the topic Function and Responsibility of Union and States and Issues and Challenges Pertaining to the Federal Structure. This can again be important for General Studies paper 3 where Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development is concerned. Now, under this editorial, I'll be giving you a brief about the editorial under 4 important subheads. That is the market borrowing by the states, impact of discontinuation of the GST, gross tax revenues, and the conclusion. The entire editorial discusses about the discontinuation of the GST that the government has come up with. And this will give you an insight. This is very important for mains also. Means maybe आपसे इस तरह के सवाल पूछे जा सकते हैं. Now, the year 2022 will mark the 5-year transition period of the GST, which was actually started in July 1st, 2017. और जो 5 year की compensation की बात की गई थी सारे states को वो June 30, 2022 को end हो चुकी है, right? Now, with the era of GST compensation, the government which is coming to an end, now the state is looking forward to increase this timeline. कुछ और समय तक बढ़ाने की बात की गई है. While many state government has asked the compensation period to be extended by few more years, we have seen that during COVID-19 also जहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा collections government की नहीं हुई थी तो वो shortfall states को भी देखने को मिला था. So let's see how this is going to increase because there is no anticipation by what numbers government is going to increase that, but possibly it is expected that 3 years तक इसको और बढ़ाने की ज़रूरत होगी ऐसा कहना है experts का. Now market borrowing with the states. अगर बात करें इंडिकेटिव कैलेंडर्स फॉर द मार्केट बोरिंग 23 स्टेट्स ऐसे हैं एंड 2 union territories for the second quarter has picked their total states development loan and this is primarily the source of financing for the state government and it is on the deficit at 2.1 trillion. और ये जो 23 states हैं उसमें आंध्र प्रदेश, तमिलनाडु, हरियाणा, पंजाब, गुजरात, they have indicated increase in their borrowing. Definitely it is required for the welfare programs and other functioning of the government. And most of the states have an above average dependence on the GST compensation. तो ये कुछ ऐसे states हैं जो बहुत हद तक GST की compensation पे भी dependent है. Now this project has an issuance of 29% higher than the same period in the last year and at the end of the 8-quarter high. Now despite the changes, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Haryana और पंजाब कुछ ऐसे states हैं they were able to raise bond in few weeks for the first quarter, but again that is not that amount which they've sought from the compensation. However, some states like Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh have entered borrowing foray into an end में, indicating perhaps जहाँ पे उनकी जो receipts है, जो permissions है वो allow की जाए, वो ad hoc basis पे borrowing करें so that they can sustain with the finance of the states. Now, impact on the discontinuation of the GST क्या क्या impact होंगी, खास करके states पे इसके क्या basically burden होगी ये जो GST compensation government बंद करने वाली. However, the discontinuation of the GST compensation flows would alter the revenue compensation for the states, which would definitely severely impact the largest share of the state in the receipts of the overall revenues, right? अगर offset proportions की बात करें, that is associated with the revenue loss, there's expectation that this will enhance the borrowing and undertake some of the expenditure adjustment in the quarters ahead, and an unfortunate sacrifice of the capital expenditure is simply cannot be ruled out at this stage. Now, gross tax revenues share की अगर बात करें, basically it is believed that the government tax revenue and the tax devolutions to the state budget for the year was quite conservative because कुछ ऐसे taxes हैं, कुछ ऐसे cess हैं जो government ने share नहीं किए. So the gross tax revenue of the central government has expanded by 29% for April and May 2022, but कुछ ऐसे cess थे like cess on petrol, diesel were reduced towards the end of May. And these were not shareable with the states, which was again a problem that sought by the state government. The estimators show that the they may be entitled for at least almost 9.3 trillion of tax devolutions and roughly by 1.1 trillion relatively for 2023 for the budget estimate. तो उनके साथ ये शेयर नहीं की गई, अगर शेयर की जाती है तो ऑलमोस्ट ये कुछ वैल्यू होते हैं जो स्टेट्स के साथ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को शेयर करने होते हैं. Now, how you can conclude this type of topic writing specifically in mains? So you can write that if the government does not decide to step back the devolutions to states in near term, instead of back ending it was done for the last year, it may reduce the number of state borrowing in the second quarters. तो अभी तुरंत खत्म करने से अच्छा ये है कि उनके जो शेयर्स हैं उनको कम कर दिया जाए, बट ये कंटिन्यूटी बनी रहनी चाहिए. But more significantly, such revenue certainly, despite the end of the GST compensation era, may important the states to a ring fence and their capital spending. तो जो कैपिटल स्पेंडिंग जो उनको मिलती थी स्टेट्स खास करके सेंटर की तरफ से शेयर में, वो कम होने की वजह से उनके अपने जो ओवरऑल परफॉर्मेंस है, प्रोग्राम्स एंड पॉलिसी है एंड फंक्शनिंग वुड ऑल्सो बी इम्पैक्टेड. सो वी हैव टू टेक इनटू कंसिडरेशन दैट हाउ थिंग्स कैन इवॉल्व इन द फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर. सेंटर एंड स्टेट हैज़ टू वर्क इन द कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म मैनर. सो कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म में भी अगर सवाल आते हैं तो आप इस तरह के टॉपिक्स जीएसटी रिलेटेड इश्यूज को भी ज़रूर हाईलाइट करेंगे. Now moving to the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. That is for the Saturday. For the first question, the correct option is A. For second question, the correct option is B. Today's MCQ for practice, आपको बताना है new umbrella entities retail payment क्या है. These were those entities that are controlled by the Indian citizen and at least 3 years for experience can become the part of the promoters of NUEs, and no foreign investment is allowed in the NUE in the existing guideline. So do check it out for the correct options. सेकेंड इलेक्ट्रल बॉन्ड के बारे में आपको बताना है. इट इशूज बाय द नेशनलाइज्ड बैंक और इन कैश की जाती है पर्टिकुलर पार्टीज के अकाउंट में विद इन 15 days एंड द बॉन्ड आर रिमेडेबल एंड डेजिग्नेटेड अकाउंट ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज. डू चेक इट आउट विच अमंग द फॉलोइंग इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शंस. एंड दिस टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन वुड अगेन बी रेलेवेंट फॉर प्रैक्टिस. आप इस तरह के और सवाल भी प्रैक्टिस कर सकते हैं. वी आर गिविंग क्वेश्चन ऑन अ डेली बेसिस. So this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.